Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. The year is 2042. Rain is an orphan living in the Jackson Star Space Colony, 65 light-years from Earth. Her parents died of pneumonia after decades of forced labor in the stellar mines. Her brother, Andy, tries to keep up a good mood with puns, but she just wants to get out of there. Life is bleak in the colony as there is no natural light, and all the inhabitants are ruthlessly exploited by the megacorporation Weyland-Yutani. Rain's dream is to live on the planet Ivaga, and Andy even makes plans to have a horse when they get there. Now that the minimum service quota has been met, the siblings are free to pack their bags. But when Rain goes to submit her travel authorization request, the clerk refuses to grant her exit. There is a labor shortage at the moment, and therefore, the minimum quotas have been doubled. Rain will be transferred to the mines, where she will have to work at least another 6 years. She begins to protest, but then she realizes her brother is being attacked. It is at this moment that we discover that, in fact, Andy is an android. He was programmed by Rain's father to act as a protective brother. Unfortunately, Andy is no longer functioning as he should, and now it's Rain who has to take care of him. After helping him and rebooting his system, she tries to come to terms with the injustice she just suffered. Then she receives a call from Tyler, her ex-boyfriend. Saying he has interesting news, he asks her to come to his trailer, and to bring Andy as well. Arriving there, Rain finds several other young people. Navarro is the pilot of the group, Kay is Tyler's sister, and Bjorn is their cousin. Bjorn is not a big fan of androids and makes sure to make this clear in the way he treats Andy as soon as he arrives. Tyler's news is about a signal that was picked up a few days ago, by chance. He discovered that the Renaissance space station, abandoned many years ago, is now adrift not far from there. His plan is to steal the cryogenic capsules that are there to escape the colony. It takes 9 years to get to Ivaga, and the only other way to obtain the cryogen needed to travel safely would be a travel authorization. Rain is impressed by her friend's audacity. The Renaissance is owned by the megacorporation Weyland-Yutani, and if they get caught, they will never be able to leave. Then she realizes why she was invited to participate. Her artificial brother was also produced by the company and operates with the same technology. The group needs him to bypass the security systems of the station, which is operated by the computer mother. Rain does not want Andy to take the risk, especially since he no longer functions as he should. Bjorn tries to convince her in the worst possible way, calling her brother a tin can. Tyler apologizes for his cousin's behavior but says he is right to insist. Both Tyler and Rain are orphans because of Weyland-Yutani, and she knows very well that they will never stop exploiting the families living in the colony. This may be their last chance. Moreover, he promises that she won't even have to leave the cabin. Rain is still scared, but she decides to face the risk and joins the group. The young people board the Kerbelan ship, with no intention of returning. Problems start to arise when they approach the Renaissance. According to the calculations, the station will suffer a destructive collision in about 36 hours. Tyler assures them there is no problem, saying they will be able to get in and out smoothly before that happens. The three girls stay on the Kerbelan while Andy and the boys go to get the capsules. When Andy presses the button, the door unlocks without any problems. The three enter the station and soon realize that the gravity generator is malfunctioning. This causes a series of jolts and some accidents as gravity fluctuates abruptly. Andy then activates the mother's system and manages to fix the problem. Tyler informs them he has found the capsules. However, when he checks one of them, the display indicates that there is only enough cryogen to freeze the passenger for 3 years. Knowing that it takes 3 times that long to get to Ivaga, the group begins to lose hope. But Tyler doesn't give up. His sensors detect a cryogen depot somewhere in the space station, which means it's still possible to refill the capsules. Bjorn comments on the excessive military apparatus aboard the station. He suspects that the vessel is under some kind of quarantine, but Tyler insists there is nothing to worry about. Anything that could have infected the crew should have died long ago. Throughout the expedition, Bjorn continues to be rude to Andy, despite the android's attempts to avoid irritating him. Rain asks the other girls why he acts this way. Navarro explains that there was a gas leak in the Jackson Star mines. 3 people were still trapped inside when the android responsible for security ordered the exit to be sealed. One of them was Bjorn's mother. Kay starts to feel unwell, and Rain discovers that she is pregnant. She promises not to tell Tyler anything and asks who the father is, but Kay just changes the subject. Inside the ship, Andy begins to make his puns to relieve the tension of the humans, only to make the situation worse. Bjorn loses his patience with him and reveals that his days are numbered. He cannot go to Ivaga with them because the planet does not accept synthetic people. Hearing the conversation, Rain feels bad for not telling the truth, but Andy isn't actually upset. His main directive is to always seek what is best for her. The trio is almost at the center of the ship now, and they notice that the equipment that should be off is still functioning. This worries Navarro, but the boys assure them that there is no one aboard. What they can't explain are the damaged parts of the ship. It increasingly seems that something terrible happened there. They even find what looks like half a person, but Bjorn concludes it is just an android. All of this is forgotten when they reach the cryogenic chamber and find more than enough to power all the capsules. However, Bjorn injures his fingers trying to open a compartment, and the emergency alarm goes off. The chamber doors close, and even Andy can't open them. Sheer force doesn't help either. Rain and Navarro are forced to enter the ship to help them. Passing by the other android, Rain has an idea. Andy might not be able to reverse the lockdown because he lacks special access. But she can transfer the credentials from the old android to Andy. She is greatly startled when the robot suddenly grabs her arm. But he only comes to life for a brief moment, reacting to Rain's interference device. She manages to retrieve the chip with the access data and hands it to Tyler through the door's gap. He inserts the new chip into Andy, who begins to reboot. Rain says it may take a few minutes. Unbeknownst to the boys, sticky creatures begin to wriggle out of the cocoons that were previously frozen. For a moment, Navarro thinks his friends are joking when they say something is moving in the water. But then Bjorn is knocked down, and shortly after, one of the aliens grabs his face. Terrified, the boy manages to break free and tosses the creature away. Now, everyone is in a panic, and Andy has still not finished rebooting. A second alien attacks Tyler, and it is Bjorn who saves him. While Rain desperately tries to open the door, Andy finally snaps out of the trance. He manages to unlock the door, and the three run out. They try to seal the chamber again, but the aliens easily break through the door. Navarro is the next victim of the facehugger, and this time no one can remove the attacker. Then, Andy surprises everyone when he starts to speak. No longer timid and insecure, he exhibits a level of intelligence far beyond that of his organic peers. His analysis of the creature concludes that Navarro is not in immediate danger. The alien seems to be keeping the girl alive, but it is still unknown why. Bjorn wants to electrocute the creature immediately, but Andy explains that this would be fatal for Navarro since the tail is wrapped around her neck. When Rain begins to ask questions about this specific alien race, Andy does not have the answers. His AI has been updated in terms of mental capacity, but the information itself is still in the other android. So it is time to interrogate the host, who identifies himself as Rook. He wakes up very agitated and talks about his old mission until he understands better what is happening. To everyone's despair, he says there is no way to save Navarro. The alien is implanting its seed, which will start to grow soon, and she will not survive the process. All they can do for her is end her suffering in the least painful way possible. Rook also warns that they need to get off the ship immediately because their lives are in danger. Only when he points upward do the young people notice a presence in the room. A huge creature is suspended from the ceiling. Rook tells them that this is the xenomorph that ruined the Nostromo's mission 20 years ago. The only survivor managed to isolate the monster in the airlock. Since then, Wayland Yutani has scoured space for the specimen. When it was finally found, scientists believed it to be dead. However, Rook says that the xenomorph is a perfect organism, capable of surviving any adverse conditions. Ignoring the android's admiration for the enemy species, Rain suggests they try to freeze the alien's tail to free it from Navarro's neck. The plan works, and the alien is driven away while the girl regains consciousness. Before her friends can celebrate, Rook has more unpleasant warnings. He says there is a 60% chance that she is already infected. He makes an appeal to his synthetic colleague, stating that he needs to make the tough decisions when humans show themselves incapable of dealing with emotions. Andy agrees with Rook. He tells Bjorn that he will not allow Navarro to return with them. As expected, Bjorn reacts violently. For a brief moment, Andy returns to his previous personality. He apologizes to Rain for what he is about to do and then goes after the other two. Bjorn manages to get back to the Kerbelan with Navarro, and she starts the departure procedure. Tyler is shocked to realize that they are leaving. Kay asks Bjorn what happened. He begins to say that Andy has become a threat, but his explanation is suddenly interrupted. Navarro is feeling unwell. With an instant X-ray tool, she sees an alien moving between her ribs. Kay tries to help her friend, but she collapses. Her chest explodes, and a xenomorph baby starts to emerge. Without a pilot, the Kerbalin begins to go out of control and crashes into the Renaissance. Rain and Tyler decide to try to save them. Andy warns them that the explosion has altered the station's course, shortening the time they had calculated before. To reach Kay and Bjorn, they need to cross the Romulus module, which is infested with aliens. As they decide what to do, Rain and Tyler do not notice that Andy has stepped away from them. Rook is secretly communicating with him. He calls him to the control room and asks what his main directive is. Andy seems to no longer remember his original programming and does not mention Rain at all. Taking the opportunity, Rook declares that there is a new objective directive from now on. Andy needs to complete the original mission. Upon reuniting with Rain and Tyler, he says he was just researching alternatives. He explains that the xenomorphs cannot see and can only locate prey by body temperature. Rain gets an idea upon hearing this. They can raise the temperature of the environment to match theirs, thus confusing the creature's perception. Andy agrees that it might work, and they put the plan into action. He warns the two that there is still danger, as the aliens will detect any temperature fluctuation. As difficult as it may be, they need to remain calm. Running is also out of the question. The two then begin to tiptoe across. To make matters worse, the crew members who did not survive the encounter with the xenomorphs are still nearby, frightening the two. Meanwhile, Kay is also in trouble. She regains consciousness after the ship crashes, but now she is alone and surrounded by slime on the walls of the ship. Then Bjorn reappears. He is injured but ready to electrocute the unwanted passengers. Not for long, unfortunately. The alien that seemed defeated sprays a powerful acid at the boy, permanently dissolving his bravery. Desperate, Kay tries to communicate, and Tyler responds. The alien's body slowly unfurls as she tries to follow her brother's instructions. Finally, the door opens, but Kay is so frantic that she runs toward the abyss and takes a nasty fall. Hearing his sister's screams, Tyler can no longer stay calm. His presence is detected by the enemies. Andy advises immediate escape. Faster than the humans, he reaches the next door well ahead and activates the closure. Tyler and Rain barely make it through, but Andy justifies his action by saying it was a calculated risk. You can tell that Rain is starting to distrust her synthetic brother, doubting his word and finding his behavior strange. Now there are only 30 minutes left until the destruction of the space station. Kay begins to recover, but she cannot move too quickly because the xenomorph is still very close. Carefully, she reaches Tyler and Rain, but there is a locked door between them. Realizing that several aliens are behind Kay, Andy refuses to open the way. He explains that it is an ambush and that the creatures are clearly waiting to attack. Breaking her promise, Rain reveals that her friend is pregnant. But even that does not soften the android's artificial heart. Since the chances of saving everyone are very slim, he has to choose the option that leads to the least number of victims. Unknowingly, he is making the same decision that traumatized Bjorn. Tyler watches in horror as his sister is dragged away by the aliens while Andy remains impassive. Suspecting the worst, Rain asks him what his main directive is. To her complete horror, he states that his mission is to protect the company's interests. Cornered between two types of threat, the young couple has no choice but to obey Andy. He leads them to the heart of the Romulus module, where Rook speaks to them through the terminal screens. He says the colonies are going through various problems that only worsen with each decade. The only way to save all these people, not to mention the company's profits, is to enhance their biological composition. After the tragic incident with the Nostromo, Rook's team concluded a series of experiments before being decimated by the very subject of study. They synthesized a microorganism capable of transforming the human body into something almost as perfect as the xenomorphs. Now they just need to get the vials to the people at Jackson's Star. For that, Andy needs the help of Tyler and Rain. And, despite their differences, the proliferation of aliens inside the Renaissance is still a common enemy. Therefore, the android agrees to lend some weapons to the human pair, reminding them to only pull the trigger as a last resort. A space shootout is never a good idea, but in this case, it could even end in an acid bath. Leaving the control room, the trio reaches a corridor that is literally lined with sticky cocoons. Choosing another path is the obvious decision. But as soon as they turn around, Tyler hears a familiar sound and realizes that his sister is alive. He quickly runs to Kay and frees her from the cocoon. Andy comes right behind and, for the first time, he seems to have good news. Kay has not yet been infected. Her invader must not have been able to host the offspring due to the human baby that was already forming there. Andy even offers one of the restorative compound injections, but Rain does not trust Weyland-Yutani scientists that much. She prefers to take her friend to a cryogenic capsule and keep her safe until they return to the colony. Unfortunately, the plan is interrupted by a sudden attack. Tyler is captured by a xenomorph and does not survive the confrontation. Andy also suffers severe damage. Rain manages to get Kay to the elevator but decides not to go up with her. Instead, she gives her instructions on how to get to the Kerbalin and activate the autopilot, directing the ship back to its original destination, planet Ibaga. Kay agrees to the plan but begins to feel a lot of pain as soon as her friend leaves. With few alternatives, Kay decides to take one of the injections. Meanwhile, Rain returns to the bowels of the space station to save her brother. The android does not want her to remove the component that modified him because he knows that the old Andy will regain control. But Rain refuses to help the new Andy, and in this way, she manages to convince him that there is no better option for the company. The speakers announce that there are 10 minutes remaining until collision. Andy wakes up, apologizing to Rain. However, there is no time for tears. They still need to get out of there before the disaster and without being caught by any alien. When Kay manages to stagger to the ship, Rook is waiting for her on the control visor. He introduces himself as a friend and offers to pilot. Meanwhile, Andy proves that he is truly back by making lame jokes. And this time, it is one of his gravity jokes that saves the day. Rain remembers the faulty generator that caused so much havoc when they arrived and decides to use it to their advantage. Caught by surprise, the creatures cannot hold onto anything and begin to float aimlessly. This not only turns them into easier targets but also makes it safer to pull the trigger. Rain then unloads all the ammunition on the xenomorphs. The acidic blood spreads in the air, not immediately damaging the station's structure. As the elevator does not operate in zero gravity, Rain and Andy are forced to float along the shaft to the exit. As soon as they start, an alien grabs Rain's leg. She manages to break free but does not reach the top before gravity returns. In free fall, she is ironically saved by the enemy when a tentacle wraps around her waist. All that alien acid that has spread is dumped onto the floor at once. Since they are on the lowest level of the Renaissance, it doesn't take long for decompression to begin. Rain holds firmly onto the emergency ladder while the elevator sweeps the aliens toward the devastating suction. The only one left is right next to her. It is about to pounce when Andy reaches for the weapon and saves his sister, proving a definitive return to his original directive. The two run to the exit and join Kay. Their relief turns to terror upon recognizing Rook's face on the screen. The flight is set for remote piloting. Rook is still on the space station and knows his end is near, but he still counts on Andy to deliver the injections to the company's representatives in Jackson's star. When Rain switches the controls back to autopilot, he realizes that this is not the same Andy he trained. His last moments are pure despair, watching as time runs out and the large space station collides with the planet's ring of rocks. A moment later, Rain decides to reprogram Andy. Instead of always doing what is best for her, he must now think about what is good for both. Now everything is well, and Rain prepares for a 9-year sleep until Ivaga. But suddenly, an alarm indicates that something is wrong with Kay. When Rain opens the capsule, her friend is screaming because the pregnancy is incredibly advanced. Rain watches in shock as the birth unfolds, especially since it is not a baby. She then grabs the newborn and runs, but cannot hold on to it for long before the acid eats through her arms. As she searches for something to defend herself with, the creature on the ground begins to open up. Rain is petrified to see a human baby amidst the slime. She tries to save it, but the acid punctures the floor wherever it stops. The effects on the ship are already enough to interrupt the autopilot. Rain finds what appears to be an empty cocoon. There are very strange footprints on the floor, as if something had walked out of there. In the capsule area, Andy is trying to help Kay when the newborn appears. He is not a xenomorph, but he is far from being human. The being quickly attacks the android and then goes after Kay, who is its mother to him. When Rain returns minutes later, she sees that Andy has been attacked and the alien is feeding on Kay's body. She tries to freeze it, but the trick does not work this time. She flees the area and realizes that her last resort is to put on the spacesuit and stay tethered to the ship while she plans a way to defeat her enemy. Suddenly she is surprised by the alien being, which approaches to put an end to the young woman. Fortunately, before the worst happens, Rain kicks the cocoon containing acid, causing a huge hole to open into space. Rain is immediately sucked out, and in the process, the being clings to her tightly, attacking her and causing her helmet visor to crack. She then unleashes all her anger on the being, ejecting it into space along with part of the loose ship, not freeing it from catastrophe. Quickly returning to the Kerbalin, Rain initiates the route to the destination and then freezes her android brother Andy and herself, ready to start life anew on Yavaga.